Two people have died as a result of Cyclone Yasa bearing down on Fiji. People across the country woke today to count their losses following the destruction left behind by the Category 5 storm. More than 20,000 people remain in evacuation centres. As the authorities begin to assess the extent of the devastation, help is pouring in from the international community. Rovoi has more.
Cyclone Yasa has caused widespread flooding and damage to homes and food gardens across the country. Governments, NGOs and aid agencies say they stand ready to help the Fijians in their recovery effort. New Zealand is one of the first to respond, with the High Commission in Suva preparing dignity kits and water cartons for those immediately affected. High Commissioner Jonathan Kerr says New Zealand supports Fiji's relief efforts to the vulnerable communities. Save the Children New Zealand Director Jackie Southey says children are among those vulnerable when disaster strikes.
What happens when we have these disasters is it affects the food chain, and so crops can be uprooted, flooded, damaged, destroyed, with scarcity of drinking water and water for crops. What we do, so we work with the governments here in New Zealand and in the Pacific, such as Fiji, so that when a disaster hits, we're ready to go.
Ms. Southey says every effort must be made to ensure children are not neglected during disasters, even if they are at home or in an evacuation centre.
Families come together to find shelter in the height of these storms, but then in the aftermath, they need child-friendly, safe spaces to be able to play and recover. Because not only are they suffering the physical impacts of such an event happening to them, maybe they've lost all of their possessions, and that can mean all of the food in their house. So we need to make sure that we've got supplies.
Fiji is still reeling from the effects of April's Cyclone Harold, a similar magnitude storm which killed one man, left thousands homeless and millions of dollars in damage. The UN Specific Representative Sanaka Samarasina met with government officials this morning to discuss how the global body can help.
We, of course, have a number of personnel here, almost 600, and pre-positioned supplies in warehouses here and in Brisbane, some of which we intend to bring in already tomorrow.
Mr. Samarasina is accompanying a government delegation to inspect the extent of the damage on Vanuatu, which bore the brunt of the storm.
So everything from getting satellite imagery to data collection, impact assessment, as well as logistics and moving pre-positioned supplies to respond to immediate needs, as well as the work that needs to be done thereafter on needs analysis. With the World Bank, ADB and others, the UN is already not just ready, but operational.
Meanwhile, a former journalist living on Vanuatu says people are wary of the threat of flooding even after Cyclone Yasa has moved from the area. Lucy Banuve, who lives in Lambasa, says power lines and trees are down.
Roofs have been blown off, structures have collapsed in, and right now the worry is the flooding, because the high tide and when rainwater collected on the mountains come down also, there's always flooding around these areas. People are just preparing for that while cleaning up. They're also mindful that because rain keeps coming.
Yasa has now moved to the southeast and has been downgraded to a Category 3 storm. But Ms. Banuve says people are still dealing with its impacts. Earlier, Australian High Commissioner John Feeks assured the Fiji government Canberra is ready to assist. Head of Pacific Delegation for the European Union, Sujiro Sim, has echoed similar sentiments. For Checkpoint, ko Rovoi, Tēnei.